Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host, me, El Young. And we are here with the brilliant Inkubus Sukkubus. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Thank
So,
you.
who are you and what you do in the band?
Okay.
Well, I'm Tony, and I'm the guitarist and the keyboard player, and I write the songs together with Candia, and I do some artwork as well, and I suppose that's about it, really. Oh, that's enough, isn't it?
I'm Claudia. I'm his other half. No, I sing and write songs with Tony. Some of the songs with Tony, and do a bit of percussion, a bit of baron playing. And we've been doing it
32 years.
32 years.
Yeah. Right.
On that note, I'm going to have a glug of cider. 32.
Yeah, 32 years. Yeah.
You've loved every minute, haven't you, love?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Right. As kids, what were you listening to over as kids?
I used to listen to mainly what my mother was listening to, and she used to listen to quite a lot of Elvis and music from various shows like Carmen Jones, the opera, based on Carmen the opera, but it's sort of like a sort of Negro version of it, and that was one of her favourite films, and I can remember being brought up on the soundtrack of that. I used to listen to sort of a lot of Tamla Motown. Not really much rock, to be quite honest. I mean, but occasionally a bit of classical music, but not very often. But it was mainly Elvis, some Tom Jones, Shirley Bassey, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's the sort of stuff I was brought up on to start with.
Yeah, a lot of the similar stuff. I think our mums were listening to same stuff. Shirley Bassey, a lot of Nina Simone, Billie Holiday. Used to listen to that. Used to be played, and my mum had a bit of a thing for the cellist Paul Tortelier, which used to be playing a lot around the house. I think she had a bit of a crush on him, though she wouldn't admit it. And there was a lot of that kind of music from. My dad used to listen to a lot of Frank Sinatra. He used to like Bob Dylan as well, and my brother, 2 years older, used to play a lot of his rock vinyl. So he introduced me to bands like Deep Purple, Zeppelin, Hawkwind. All sorts of things like that. He was really into his rock music, and we had our bedrooms were next to each other, so it used to filter through the wall, and I still listen to a lot of that music now, and it's so he introduced me to rock music, and
I think sorry.
Yeah.
No. I was just saying, like, I sort of gradually moved on to listening to more sort of, I suppose, sort of contemporary stuff as I became a teenager. But at that time, I started to listen to more classical stuff as well. I used to have my own radio, and I used to tune into Radio 3 and listen to a lot of like classical music. I used to like Sparks and Slade and T-Rex as well. Back, obviously, in the 1970s. It was quite a while ago. Yeah.
I liked Gary Glitter when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah. You say what you want.
Yeah. When I was at primary school, I think the first vinyl I was given was Gary Glitter, "Remember Me This Way." Not a popular choice now, But at the time, I was absolutely made it. I was at primary school, and it was because prior to that, actually, I did have vinyl prior to that, and it was 7-inch, and I must have been about 6 or 7, and it was Bridget the Midget. I don't know. And it was like this high-pitched voice. It was like a kid's. It was called Top of the Tots. And it was, So this was my first, like, 33 RPM vinyl was Gary Glitter. Wow, I'm proper grown up now. I've got a vinyl album.
Right. So you started to listen to the music, and basically, who got you into like music? I know Candy said something about your brother getting into rock music.
Yeah, he did. As I say, because his bedroom was next to mine, and he's a couple of years older than me. And so, I mean, he loved his music, and it was just he was constantly playing vinyl. And he used to listen to Tommy Vance rock show. Do you remember? I think Sunday evenings on Radio 1, I think it was. And he used to record that on his tape player as well, so that he could play back the rock show. And so he introduced me to a lot of the parties we went to in our teens. It was all stuff like that. It was all sort of Zeppelin and Motorhead. Absolutely love Motorhead. Black Sabbath. That's my teen years, like the smell of patchouli and an incense burning and this all 70s rock playing in the background and just getting very drunk on cider. That's my teen years.
It's sort of a bit different than that, really.
Tone is a lot more sophisticated.
No. So
Radio 3 and classical music.
Well, I do used to listen to Radio 3 classical music, but I also used to like punk rock, and I was quite inspired when the Sex Pistols came out. When I first saw the Sex Pistols on the TV on Top of the Pops doing Pretty Vacant, that's when I decided I wanted to be in a band. It was that very moment when I decided that's what I wanted to actually do, be in a band. And so in a very short period after that, I went and bought a bass guitar, and I practiced along by trying to play along to Orgasm Addict by the Buzzcocks for about 3 hours, which probably she did. Then I gradually started to get other people who were playing in the band with me, and I formed a punk rock band called the Screaming Dead. And we become a more sort of gothic horror punk band as time went on, and we had a few singles out and stuff. And we didn't do massive tours, but we did play the whole of most of the UK, so sort of quite successful. And we were on television and everything, and that was and that lasted for about 7 years, I think.
Yeah, cool. One of the people in the chat has asked a question. This comes from Lee Kitchen. He says, so as for a question, if you were stuck on a desert island, what 3 items would you want?
Good question, Lee. I think so. I'm presuming I'm taking this is like Desert Island Discs, where you're not allowed certain things, like you're not allowed a computer, you're not allowed any way of keeping in touch with people. So,
and you've got food, I take it, water.
Okay, so if we assume we've got food and water and shelter and all the old Hammer movies on DVD, and you'd want some good reading material. So I want to take all of the books with me. I mean, I suppose you're not really prepared, are you? If you're sort of like marooned on a desert island, you can't say, "Oh, actually, I better make sure that I pack all my books." So oh goodness me.
Yeah, I probably want a musical instrument of some sort. And probably some things to draw with, if not paint with, really.
Yeah.
So I'd say a musical instrument, something to draw or paint with. Yeah, and something to read. So it'd have to be quite a big book.
Yeah, I'd want a radio as well. Not one that I could contact people through, because I know that wouldn't be allowed. But I'd want a radio that I could tune into, like Radio 4. I know it's sad. The kids hate to have Radio 4 on all the time, just because I feel lonely if I don't have Radio 4 on when I walk through the kitchen and stuff. It's just like it's so I'd want a radio, and I'd want it sort of shortwave, so I can pick up different countries, and then so if I feel like listening to a bit of sort of rock music or a bit of Latin American groove or something that I could dance on the beach to. So yeah, I'd have to have a radio.
I suppose a gun would be quite handy, wouldn't it?
A gun. Well, and lots of ammo.
Lots of ammo, yeah.
Or a catapult. No, and then you could use coconuts, couldn't you?
No, I think a gun would be better.
A gun. What, for yourself? If it all got too much.
Yeah, you could blow your brains out. I know, wouldn't it? Yeah.
It's all a bit depressing, isn't it? Oh goodness, it's getting dark.
Right, so you touched a little bit on the Screaming Dead. As about what bands were you in before? Any other bands that you were in, or?
Not really as quite as important as the Screaming Dead. I mean, these. I mean, we didn't really realise it at the time when we were in it, but the Screaming Dead, as sort of apparently, was quite an important band historically because of the sort of horror aspect of it. But I was in another band called the Resurrection shortly afterwards, but it was just we did a bit of recording and played a few gigs, and obviously we had various different names. I think at one point we were called the Sanctuary and stuff like that, but really it was essentially from the Scream Dead I went on straight to forming with Candia and Adam at college Incubus Sukkubus. So really it was only really the Screaming Dead, and there are a few sort of like early incarnations of it, but it wasn't the true proper thing. It wasn't the proper thing until I met the singer Sam and stuff. But then it was full on the Screaming Dead for about 7 years, and then when we eventually split up, I went back to college. I went to art college, and that's where I met Candy and Adam, and we formed Inkubus Sukkubus.
Yeah. Who basically decided to actually say, "Oh, let's start Inkubus Sukkubus"? Was it a group effort or an individual coming to you, or was it just like a natural progression type of thing?
I think it was a natural progression. I mean, we were into the same sort of things, and there was a point before I started Incubus Succubus when I had the idea of having a sort of band which mimicked the sort of occult things I was into, but also I took on board a lot of the vampire things. And when I met Candy, she was into all the same things, so it became natural that we both proceed along those lines, as to say, and so all of the songs are sort of essentially, most of them are either pagan or they have a sort of vampiric theme, generally speaking. I think most of them are generally about those sort of subjects.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. When we met at college, and we didn't realise for the best part of the year that we had the same interests. And then once we actually got talking, we said, "Oh my goodness, you'd like you read the same sort of books, you're interested, and you used to watch the same same horror movies
We had the same comic.
as kids. Yeah, we had the same horror comics.
Vampire Tales, Dracula Lives.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like, sort of felt like, okay, right, this is kind of meant to be, and so yeah, that's how the band came about, and how it just naturally, the subject matter of what the songs are about just fitted with what we were both really interested in.
We weren't necessarily musically exactly the same, and I think that both those sort of influences sort of help shape the sort of music which we actually do. Candy's into more sort of folk stuff, and you are a bit it's sort of it is a different, you're into slightly different music to what I'm into. I
listen to a lot of different types of music. All sorts of, like, I like a lot of old blues stuff as well. So I probably listen to a lot of stuff you don't. But along with the sort of the sort of 1940s black jazz singers, I used to listen to a lot. Eartha Kitt is one of my favourite singers, and so you got that mixture of like sort of rock music, and I had a sort of a different punk phase when I was like sort of 13 onwards, when I was the only punk in the village. The only girl punk in the village. Sorry. There were three of us. I was the only girl. And so you got, I guess you got that kind of melding of the strange different musical tastes coming together, and hopefully it works.
Well, hopefully.
So over this last year, what have you basically been up to? I know you've just released a new album, The Way of the Witch. So what's leading up to the album? What you've been up to?
Well, we sort of wrote quite a lot of music for the album. Probably about I actually worked on about 30 songs. Like the music for them and everything. And I don't think I've even played all of them to the rest of the band because we just went through them as they were. And then Candy wrote the song about Where Have You Got My Daughter on the Schulte box. So that was a new instrument. And so there was a lot of like composing to start with. And we have also been writing the book as well. We have a book out, Tales of Witchcraft and Wonder, where it was sort of local stories of which we've written songs about, and that's done quite well. And just generally, keeping the band ticking over and working on some new songs as well. And I've also been trying to archive and find sort of songs that we've actually lost and recordings we've lost, and to put them onto Spotify so people can hear them. Not to actually bring them out as hard copy, because most of them are different versions of songs we've already got out, but it's sort of like different earlier versions of some of the songs. I think some people find that quite interesting.
A lot of them are songs that we haven't heard ourselves for many years. It's like Tony sent off, we had a cassette out in the early mid-90s, I'm not sure, it's called Corn King. And it had these very early versions of songs like Underworld and Corn King, Dark Mother? No,
Prince of Shadows and Dance in the Fire of Love.
But very early versions. I mean, they were done in a good studio in Herefordshire. But then we went on and changed the instrumentation of them, and just gave them very different treatment. And then we just completely forgot about these other ones. So Tony sent off the masters to be actually sort of extracted digitally and sent back to us. And so hearing them again is just the strangest thing, after all these years. And we're just releasing them. Tony's been putting them out on Spotify. We got an album put out as relics, which is all these sort of rarities and old demo versions of things.
Yeah.
And so there are more of those to come as we sort of dust off
relics too.
dust off our old spider infested cupboards and find these old recordings.
Yeah. Right. We have another question from one of the viewers. This one comes from, I hope I pronounced your name right, Amarantine Soul. They ask, I have a question, please. Who are your favorite authors? Thank you.
Okay. Some of the books on which I'm a big fan of, or have been for since I was in my teens, and Marion Green, who writes these rather than fiction, it's sort of books on witchcraft and the practice of natural magic. So I've always been a big fan of her. I'm a big fan of Aleister Crowley's poetry, strangely enough. Got quite a few books of his, but not everyone likes his work. I mean, he's obviously quite a controversial figure.
Marmite, isn't he?
Marmite, yeah. But if you read his poetry, it's absolutely beautiful, and you just wouldn't expect the tenderness that there is. It's just so lyrical and But most of the books we tend to have are a lot of them are sort of non-fiction books about the history of witchcraft or the dark side of history, and so we have gathered a lot of books over the years, which we all say, it's good insulation for the house, and it sort of keeps the cold weather out, and it keeps the noise we're making here away from a lot of the neighbours, hopefully. We do enjoy our books.
Yeah, but I mean, most of the books I read are non-fiction. When I do read, crime novels. I read Peter Robinson's crime novels, but that's just a bit of entertainment, really. But I think they're sort of quite evocative, really, of the north of England, of where they're all set, and that's quite nice. But generally speaking, most of the books I do read are I don't tend to read fiction as such. I tend to read actual historical books and stuff like that. When I was younger, very much younger, I used to read Jean Pladey's historical books because my mother used to read them, and then she used to pass them on to me to read as well. I don't know if that's relevant to anybody, but it's going back a bit now.
Yeah. We also have another question for Tony this time. This one's from Mark Vine. And he asks, has Vampire Division ever performed live?
Yeah, we've performed live twice. Once in Leeds and once in Colchester. And I performed with Dean Rhodes playing the bass and Greg Holland playing the guitar, and I sang. Unfortunately, not the gigs were particularly that good, really. I think we went out and we were underprepared to actually play, but it was an experience, and I used to, I do quite like some of the Vampire Division songs, but it's a thing. It's like a project which really would need a lot more time dedicated to it, which I don't really have. I did some recording with another singer, Alan Hale, and we put not a single app, but we put a track out on YouTube and stuff, and he actually wrote the words for it, and I think it was quite a good collaboration. But unfortunately, I've only ever played 2 gigs with Vampire Division, and that was 20 years ago. So I don't know whether it's likely that there'll ever be more. I wouldn't say never, but I think it's quite unlikely, to be quite honest. Yeah.
It was more than that, actually, wasn't it? Because it was when I was pregnant with Leon, wasn't it?
No, that was the Screaming Dead again. The Screaming Dead reunion.
Well, it must have been when Leon was very young.
Actually, it was
at home looking after him.
16 years ago, because it was when.
We're trying to figure out when things happen by how old the children are.
Yeah. Speaking of gigs, are you going to do any gigs for for promotion for the Way of the Witch? Are you going to be touring the country?
We're hoping to be playing as soon as it's possible, but we are very aware that it's not really going to be easy. We are supposed to apparently be playing at quite a big festival in Poland in July, and we've also got a few other dates.
Yeah, Castle Party, which we've played quite a few times.
Yeah,
they're certainly saying it's going ahead at the moment. So, but it's like everything crossed.
But we don't know for sure. I mean, we were thinking about doing a few of our own, because we've been doing some smaller gigs ourselves, doing the acoustic stuff, which we do, because we've got our own PA for doing those sort of things. But it's just the whole thing about having to, because we'd have to be the people who policed the whole thing and made sure that people weren't sort of, breaking the rules and all that. And I don't really want to be doing that sort of thing. So we don't really know, exactly what's going on. But if the possibility comes up, we will definitely be playing, definitely. But it's just proving a little bit awkward at the moment, I think, because we don't know what it's going to be like, about whether if they're still going to have like social distancing and all that, because it's going to put the damper on things a bit, I think.
Yeah, it will be. It will.
Yeah, it won't be the same. Yeah.
No, especially when I know it's like quite a few people like to get up close to the stage and like start like dancing and enjoying the music and start singing and stuff like that. It's going to be a bit awkward if you've still got to be 2 meters away from each other.
I know it's going to be really awkward. Yeah. Because during the last lockdown, after they come out of the last one, we went to the theatre to watch a pantomime, which was actually quite good. But it was a bit weird, because everybody was like really spaced out and and everyone was being really careful not to cough and stuff like that, and it was just a bit weird. And I was thinking, if this is what a pantomime is going to be like, I can only imagine what our gig's going to be like,
Yeah. I was going to say I've been to 3 Inkubus Sukkubus gigs. Going back to 2012, 13. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of the fans getting up on close to the stage and dancing, singing, and singing along to the songs and everything. And it's going to be totally strange now if they do get.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we tend to like sort of pass a bottle of Jägermeister around amongst the crowd and stuff like that. Yeah. So we won't be doing that anytime soon.
Yeah. Because if it's going to be really restricted, it's almost not really worth doing, because it's going to miss out on all the stuff where people can, get close to you and talk to you and, be in close proximity to you. It's going to be unless things go back to how they were. It's not really going to be quite the same. In fact, I'd rather play smaller gigs we just like 20 or 30 people where there's no social distancing than play great big ones where there's people have to sit down and stuff. I'd rather play smaller ones where there's because what I'm thinking is maybe they'll allow smaller ones with no restrictions, and we'll take it from there. Like maybe they'll extend the bubble size. I don't know, but that would be preferable to playing big gigs where people will have to keep their distance. Because I think our sort of music is a sort of very much, it's a sort of like active experience, I think.
Yeah. So after this cycle of promo stuff is over, are you going to be writing new material, or are we putting stuff together again? Putting together another album?
Yeah, well, we've been doing some recording this afternoon, actually. New stuff.
We're already working on it.
Candice been whacking a few tracks down, haven't you?
Whacking a few tracks down, yeah, hollering upstairs, yeah.
Yes, so we're still recording new songs. There's quite a few new songs written, ready to start working on. And we're just going to take it from there. We're just going to keep on moving, keep the whole thing moving forward, and we just have to wait and see, I think, how things pan out. But we're certainly not going to give up and stop because there's a pandemic, and I mean, obviously, I think to some extent, it's probably. Everybody writes stuff at this time is going to be influenced by it, like how art was influenced by the Black Death and that sort of thing. I think maybe it's people are going to have a different view of life on the other side of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have found a new kind of creativity during lockdown. And trying different things, and I mean, just looking at music, bands, and you trying to, people just aren't giving up, and they sort of think, okay, right, if we can't go out and we do gigs, then obviously there's been a lot of live streaming going on, and like us writing the Tales of Witchcraft and Wonder book last year. Because it's something we want to do for a while, and they think, okay, we've got time to do that now. Let's use the time, use it wisely, use it well. So I think there is a lot of creativity that's come out of it. I think there's always a flip side. There's always a positive that you can find from these seemingly dark times. There's no getting away from it. It is a dark time for a lot of people, but you find the positives, and you work with it.
Yeah. Now, I've got a question. I've got a question for myself, and it's a bit of a harking back to a little bit a few years ago. I found out, I think it was through the live stream a few years back, that there was a slight name change into Inkubus Sukkubus. Instead of it was I think it was about 94, 95.
That's
where you
right,
changed the name. It's from using the C's in the normal spelling of Inkubus Sukkubus, and you used it over to the K's.
Yeah, it was basically when we first started, we record Inkubus Sukkubus with C's, as is the normal way of spelling it, and we were sort of having a massive run of bad luck, and we were having a lot of trouble getting things off the ground, and so I looked into the numerology of it, and we discovered that if we changed the C's to K's, the actual total value of the number of the band would be different. So we changed it, and it was more successful. And whether it was because we thought it was going to be, we sort of naturally tuned into more successful things. I don't know, but it definitely did make quite a difference. Because we'd had a lot of misfortune in the early days, and lots of things were going wrong that shouldn't necessarily have gone wrong.
Although when you're in a band, that does tend to.
It does happen. It does, yeah. It does happen.
It's the rough with the smooth. It's never an easy ride. But that's part of the I don't know, the sort of masochistic joy of being in a band. I think is the roughing it, is the sort of vomiting around the back of the rewind. You know, sort of sleeping in the back of a transit, and you know, that kind of, you know, and working really hard, losing lots of money, because you know it costs quite a bit of money to keep a band going.
Cost us a lot of money.
So we lost a lot of money, but you do when you're in a band. It's really what you want to do.
Yeah,
you have day jobs, you know, and we were just plowing all our money into the band. We were
spending about £400 a month in the 90s on keeping the band going. That's how much it was actually costing us. And of course now that would be more like £700 a month or £800 a month. But we thought it would eventually pay off, and it actually did. But we did have a lot of bad luck. I mean, there was like we had 1,000 singles pressed of Beltane, and they all came back warped. And by the time we'd sorted that out with the company, because they wouldn't pay for it to have it repressed again and all that, and it went on for about 18 months. And by the time we got them all back, all pressed properly, you couldn't sell vinyl anymore.
We made fruit bowls. No, we didn't make fruit bowls, but that could have been something you do. You melt the singles.
We gave them all away.
I think we gave them all. We used them as frisbees.
Yeah, and now they're worth like £40 or £50 each. But when we had them back, we couldn't know what to do with them. Yeah. So we were just giving them away for free at gigs.
That's what we're doing. Yeah, the first 50 people rocking it or whatever.
Yeah, at the gig, got free single.
First in, you get your free single. And so, you know, well, I'm going to do this. How am I going to like carry this around? And you know,
some people were just binning them because
it's too much hassle to carry them.
Yeah. So, before we get into the last question, where can people find you? You've got a website, Facebook or Twitter, or
we've got all of those. We're on YouTube, and we're on Spotify as well. If people want to order actual albums, physical copies of the album, it's inkubussuccubus.com. And we will sign them for people, and we'll sign them to whatever name you actually want us to. So you can buy most of our stuff, which is still in print, from there. If you just want to see what we sound like, there is quite literally thousands of videos on YouTube of us, both live and tracks from our albums. And if you're on Spotify, we've got quite a big presence on there. So we're on Spotify as well.
And the social media things, we've got obviously on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, that kind of thing. And if you want to sort of join in the chat with us and other Inkies followers, then we've got a Facebook group.
Friends group,
yeah, Inkubus Sukkubus friends. So that's quite friendly and chatty on there. So if anyone wants to join us on there, we hop in and join in the chat and fun.
Yeah, right. The last question. Any advice for people who want to become musicians?
Well, the first thing to say is obviously these days becoming a new musician is very difficult. It always has been, but I think it must be particularly hard now. And you should only do it if you really want to play music, and you shouldn't think of it as being a way of making money or anything like that, because you will become eventually very disappointed with it. But if you genuinely want to play, what I would say that you would need to do would be to get like a band around you, or if you're a solo player, work out a way how you can produce music yourself without spending a lot of money. So hopefully that will include building a small home studio, and you should definitely think about having hard physical copies of CDs made. I think that they have a lot more impression on people. So instead of having, you know, we're going to have a digital release, I think people take a physical copy much more seriously, and it doesn't really cost more. I mean, it's cost about £700 for 1,000 copies of the CD, and it shows people that you are actually serious. And
it's baby steps, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think if you want to do it, it's just don't think about being a rock star or making money. If you want to do it, you know, it's like when you're talking about the days of punk, watching the Sex Pistols and just thinking, well, you know, anyone can do this. You know, this is you can pick up an instrument. I'm just going to make a noise and just and you know, the same goes for now, really, doesn't it?
It does.
But just as long as you're not thinking that you're going to be that, you know, you don't get signed by record companies these days. But the good thing is that it can be very much like a kind of homegrown thing, where you can produce and release music yourself now. You don't need the record company. You can produce music at home. You can do it all on a computer if you want, and then you can release it on all these different platforms. You know, and if you want to bring out hard copies on CD as well, you know, you can do that. You don't need a record company to do that, and you can release stuff on Bandcamp, you know, Spotify, all these various places. You know, you whereas, you know, you're going back a few decades, you couldn't do that.
Right,
you would need to be signed. You know, you would need a lot of money behind you. You'd need thousands to go into the studio. So, you know, in many ways, it's more of a level playing field.
You should also be prepared to pay money into advertising as well. A lot of people are very reluctant to get their head around the concept of like paying for it. You have to be careful about where you actually what you actually spend it on. But I think advertising in the right place is very, very productive. Very, you know, it does make it makes a difference. And I think if you would say, oh well, you know, why would I spend £100 on that when I could buy, you know, 7 sets of strings and all that? It's sort of it's something that you really should consider very, very seriously, because advertising does make a difference. It does make a difference.
And also connecting with your fans,
yeah,
which is something that is so much easier to do now than it was for bands, you know, a while back, with all these different platforms. You know, and it's just great because you can get that instant feedback, and you can talk to people who listen to your music, you know, and understand what they like, what they don't like, what kind of interests they have, which part of the world they're from. And, you know, you could chat to someone on the other side of the world. It's like, you know, we've been talking to people, you know, today and yesterday, and saying it's Beltane, and they're going, oh, it's Halloween in Australia at the moment. We're you know, and you know, they're listening to the music at the same time, and you know, it's just that engagement, which is it's just brilliant. Just love the fact that you can just chat with people, and it's instant. So yeah, there is lot more opportunities opened up, I think, through the internet, and you know, these different platforms. It's good. So I think it's concentrating on those positives and keeping in touch with people.
Yeah. Well, unless you've got something to more to add, or if there's any more questions still coming in from the chat, I think that might be about it.
Well, it's been lovely chatting, and thanks again for the brilliant review.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to the interview. Thank you so much.
It's been great. Yeah. I think the questions were really good as well. Yeah.
And please buy the new album, The Way of the Witch.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.